Right. Because I'm getting inspired by this video of healthy longevity, where they're working on their behavioral mechanisms or their modules that ends up being characteristically good for nutrient deposition, possibly throughout the organism. And so, with that kind of system in effect in other systems to basically make it fun to do things, like if you're in a situation where you need to repair your car on the side of the road or something like that, then basically you use a teamwork implementation strategy of basically cross credits where the entire social system could be relative ranges of this design mechanism where we scan our products of what we know now across this distributed light field of saying, hey, you know what? This is available for light abuse, and over our implementation strategy of what we've done over our lifetime, we use that kind of a layering approach to best guess the right delta of default. It's easy to repair things when the right logic is applied. You could just have to just put the car into a liquid solution bath. It just augers through a set of mechanical systems to bring it back to the OG state, because luckily the OG's documented all the micro logics to get this stuff back to classic. And using our layered approach, we can cross compute using emulation sciences our very best of the now and future continuum logic scape, such that we subcategorize our operational systems to cross love. Because if you just cross love, then the credit system you just kind of reverse villainify, and then villain escape your dynamic of solution integration, such that even the worst case scenario has a really fun way of just getting back to normal reality in the best psychological available data set through a distributed node system throughout all civilizations. Because it's a lot easier to just go ahead and kind of let satellites help other satellites because of the cross savings. Because with a distributed energy system where both the orbital system, the orbital schema, is correctly addressed, such that future dynamic systems that seem reasonably predictably true to use our emergency system throughout the thoroughfares of what the best mechanism should be, such that even node one single node of something, you fill in the right word, can develop and grow modulate to your best set of principles on what you consider yourself. And so towards longevity and lifespan, if you have an accident, then SIOSI lattice set, in my opinion, in a tetrahedral interlock shape, such that it's very flexible, because these are basically chain links where it's a silicone node, an oxygen node, and a silicone node, and an oxygen node, and a silicone node. And these can cross link wherever you need in the field. In a 3D field of just CAD, you can then just terraform your implement to electrically stimulate, like an axolotl, the neuron network appropriate to develop growth in meat from tissue, blood, and other lipid layers to go into sympathetic and parasympathetic self-aware systems, such that our organism of a jellyfish of the entire civilization can just look at the latest translation using ChatGPT with an intercept hue logic, such that the weather system, might be our best default. If the wind is in our face, then everybody's going to be friendly in a translational schema, of what kind of characteristics should I implement? Because in a grid network, the machines actually want as much intel as possible, such that they don't have to know the other person. That's just OAuth 3.0, where an individual, a person that recognizes, a set of impressionable objects in their atmosphere of materials that go to the periodic table of elements through cross intercepts of half-lives to I want to say fusion and fission inside of the sun. Is one, the fission would be the field where fusion, no. Fusion is the field in my mind where fission, like a nuclear power plant, is the different radio half-lives of dendrites to isotopic intercepts padded into periodicity of material sciences down to, well, the molar scale, of intercepts and those cost computes of that one liquid metal to what was it? Not magnesium, something like that. Or was it? Anyway, mercury at room temperature, such that energy and resonance is a volumetric process, and the atom is an inherently characteristically distant subset of what a sphere would look like with temporal recognition of atmospheric and radio waves. That ends up being characters of band waves that are both radially functions of frequency. And so you can go into the EM landscape of XY intercepts. And I lost my train of thought due to the background noise. It's like the neighborhood's like, dude. Dude. I don't even know. It's fun though. And I wish I knew how to get invited to stuff, because I don't know where to find other people interested in basically sharing with me how they'd like to craft out ideas at that intercept geometry, because it's fascinating. And I'd like to see things that I've never even conceived of. It's like we have these avenues now of hyper threading the future with the language stuff. And so we can use the molecular geometry and those 3D lattices to cross intercept inside of cabinets to start with, and then by having distributed system, like kind of like Amazon, with more atmospheric properties, because those books were amazing that you put together yourself to get all of that stuff distributed and just deal with all the customer service in the best way possible. Because eventually an automated system is completely independent of currency, such that our automations are the foundation of the internet. And so it's amazing that you can bring in what you know into those cross-computed logics. To be real, I don't know what we started with on this particular video with the threading of the other videos, but this continuum fluid of the magnetohydrodynamic system, it's a scientific field that studies the behavior of electricity conductive fluids. Yeah, that's the atmosphere to radial logic to what that distant intercept of a circle when looking through. Oh, that's a fun discussion, right? Looking through a microscope of optics ends up threading the distance literally in a dreamscape of special relativity to life relativity, where the special relativity and general relativity cross compute from real to digital. And so that optical system through the matrix layer could work towards longevity by finding the right intercepts to continue the design layer, of automating healing and also resistive training, because technically at some point we could figure out, how to fill the right amount of increases in the atmosphere such that we're both safely padded, and we use the gondola effect. The gondola effect. That's an amazing thing in atmospheres with the kind of surface of this planet. We can cross balance using wires and such movement of materials. And yeah, the trains and stuff are amazing, and we got the underground for different, fun avenues of maybe, instead of the zeppelins being in the outer atmosphere, they could be in the inner. And while we kind of stack to sky whatever you want to stack, and then you use things like those, oh yeah, the lattices, SIOSI. One of that, I'm gonna bring in the silver nanotubes once again, because those intercepts of energy coupling are some of the best trace routes to make low impact, high volume scapes of basically like the space foam. And then you have that filled characteristic. And so then neutrino oscillations, I don't understand that, but I want to say it might have the click back and forth between fission and fusion in fields with that infinitely axied fulcrum of a tetri categorization. Different levels of life and sharing. That seems to work pretty good. All right. I think this one's good. How long is that? That's only 13 minutes. How do people do that? Are you kidding me? On the internet? For hours? You just talk? The StarCraft players, I've seen some StarCraft players, like Star, OG on StarCraft 1. Woo, my element. You just sit there. All the different characters. I was playing on the TI-84 or something like that. I had these like the Oregon Trail on it, and so they were telling us in the schools around here that Texas Instruments, and I don't know, I could have my dates wrong, so I'm sorry, but I had some fun stuff on there. And then StarCraft, I flooded the field with Hydralisk my first online game, the 56K connection against the other person in elementary school, Tony, and his friend was Brett Rowe. I definitely remember the Rowe. And so we would be in drafting classes, and that's when I was learning about flight foil, or basically the wing, the atmosphere, somehow moving a little bit faster on top than it does down below because of the density distribution, having a wave fall off effect being the lift mechanism. But I want to say it might just be electrostatic, kind of a field intercept. I don't know. That seems to make more sense to me than a waterfall lift mechanism. But just the difference, I guess the difference in density and appreciating where space-time is with the orbital system, is that how it goes? Because I like the automotive thing, right? Because you got energy and suspension, you got the unsprung weight, and you got the sprung weight. And so when you're working on the intercepts of your A arms and you got your, you don't even need a coilover. You could just have a leaf spring and you just have material thicknesses be your different amounts of bendiness. And then you got length for, distance. And then you got spring rate with different chops to it. That was my favorite thing about the fours. And I think you fought to keep those in vehicles just by putting the goddamn bolts backwards. So we'd have to cut that shit out. Because it was such a logical system to explain how that works. And then the coilovers, well, I guess they work sometimes, especially in the fulcrum moments. And so with those extra pivotal systems, then cross compute. I like the who was it that Chevy? Weren't you the ones that created the changing fluid dynamics, the resistant changes inside the shock absorber? I dig that technology. That on the Ford Raptor when I was sailing over whoops, I couldn't believe it. I haven't gotten the Ultra 4 dialed in right because of the total amount of weight of those two axles in comparison to the chassis. Even with the three triple bypass coilovers, it's real tough to get those numbers just right because the rebound is fighting so much to get those freaking wheels back onto the ground that the driver, of course, is going to have to feel something, right? Like, because, like, how much can move, especially with the compression, making sense. And so, yeah, the dynamics of that is how you start appreciating the Ford Raptor software update is just flight characteristics. We'll just give them the flight stuff. And then I don't know who will do the program for the UI because we got drivers. I don't know. I'm just fucking around now. All right. I'll try to. No, I won't. Deal with it. The AC cap though. That's an interesting story. A Lincoln story. Just something interesting for the VR headsets in the steampunk generation that could put together this idea of what if we can broadcast the periodic table in a sonic type format where we use timing like the light lag layer, the LLC in parentheses, where the light lag is a timing of clusters of energy because that's key to suspension and resonance. And suspension or energy and resonance is the nodes of intercept. And so if you have a lot of molecular clusters all moving in the same, if it's just like a simple crystal or something like that, then you can time the different moments and energy impacts as it radially transmits in different geometries of, freaking, what is it? Dimensions, right? Which is kind of like axes, but dimensions is another way to just, at least they'll fear something in a continuum mentality because we got to make a living. And so to make a living, someone's going to have to talk about a killing. So yeah, y'all need to work on that design stuff a little bit faster because I kind of think that that's why the big news is just about the latest innovations of, Foxconn, troops moving things around. There has been fires all over the frickin' world, but it's a local news system. So the better we can distribute default such that we can make an impact logically in maybe like a help file format, like a, what do you call it, like a distributed back call where it's like, yo, it seems like you're pretty good at this in your virtual. Do you want to try this situation because we got this much resources to go ahead and use LEAD to just clear out all the radiation that might be sent in your direction because like we got that kind of intercept coordinate geometry built into GPS and the lattice of nodes and intercepts and how much fuzz logic we have to put into the system such that we don't have to fear planes even falling into it because the FAA is just so well automated that the GT3 scape of virtual challenge and intercept geometry, such that Google can, incorporate their logic layers into that padded distribution of the I like the idea though of what was that one, two or something like that, where you can have your car online and available as a rental, and have that just be, a thing where you have the keys just in it, and then maybe somebody else. I don't know how cars get cleaned on an automated forefront. I want to know who helps the poor person that has to freaking clean out the cars with an automation tactics. If it's a super healthy, I think that the cops should be the ones that do that. I don't know.